because also this is for, so we are recording for two reasons. We're recording to share with the people that couldn't join today, and also sharing between cohorts because we meet in different time zones and different days. And it's not the same, like the session, the other sessions with other cohorts, I think it was just, we were doing something more fast check-in and something else, and there's always something else that comes up, right? And in terms of questions, also your questions, and this brings something new. So I'm recording for that, and maybe in the future, and I will check with everyone before I do that, is that maybe through help of editing, this could become something that will share, not the whole thing, but in a way that people can do it on their own, at least partially. So it's some kind of online course that, or a resource, I don't know exactly, that could be available for more people in the future. So, and just to invite Awela and to share that in the sutra, we just have a bulletin board also on the sutra, and that would be great to put it there.
Okay, is there a link for the sutra?
Yes, I'll put it in the chat.
You may have provided it, but it's not clicking.
Yes. I will share that. I will also share. I think you should be there. This is the one for the bulletin board, and there is one more general, which is this one. I think I invited you and everyone. I can also check and see.
Okay.
Who, if you accepted the invitation, but maybe you didn't accept the invitation. So I just resend it to you now.
Okay, thank you.
So
sorry.
You can find them. Yeah, if you are having a hard time getting into the sutra, let me know. It's new. I think some people are starting to learning and exploring that. Tamsin also was moving ahead with holding these cafe breaks and also trying out this Gather Town, which is, I think it's very interesting potential performance space. Actually, I learned about it because a director that I work with is doing a performance on Gather Town, an immersive theater. So I put it there.
Did you say our town?
Gather Town. Gather Town. It's kind of a mix of a Zoom and an old game and an old kind of role-playing game. And so you have your little person and you walk around and you meet people, but you can also add like videos and posters, so you can design it as a sort of an environment. So it's like it's interesting, I think, in terms of if you're doing theater in a more untraditional way, and also this idea of spaces. So I try to connect with this idea of spaces. So as I see theater, is really about spaces, and sometimes it's kind of not clear for me. Or let's say the theater that I find most interesting is really on the limit of what other people might consider a theater. It's more of a space, like you were describing, like cooking together and holding those spaces. So I think and just connecting that with the newspaper theater. So I feel, and this is why it's really important to me to take the time to inspire people to connect with each other and trying the tools, is that I see this space as a sort of advanced laboratory. We are co-creating what is newspaper theater now. As much as me, I have some experience, I am been working with students now and can share more about that. One of the things that I will be introducing today is this idea of digital essays, which I started to explore with the students. And I found that for some of the students that had a harder time with bringing the body and the playfulness, the digital essays, which are sort of like videos they make, it's an interesting way to express that they are feel more comfortable with and even more creative with. So I'm going to introduce that. And again, I'm aware that people in our cohorts are sometimes very busy. So I'm not going to pressure you. You have to do it next week or something. You know, it's because someone already wrote back and was like stressed about doing it good. And so it's an invitation to develop a digital essay. And the digital essay can be very, very simple also. Digital essay could be me reading the news outside in nature and recording that, or just sharing something. So the digital essay could be really, and actually you can even put something that you already made in the past and that you want to bring in as something that you would like to reflect on. So this is the digital essay and the connection with working. And the other thing, and this is the tool we're going to explore today. It's not really a tool, it's the practice or the other practice that I'm using mostly is social presence in theater. And so we're going to explore that in the context of newspaper theater. And I've been also introducing that in the Zoom classes. And I found that, it takes time for the students to connect, but they also really appreciate it. They really appreciate it because they're not used to being in their body and having to free in all the other lessons. It's very different. So I think it's just also and then the question of building trust over time. And so I feel like that's kind of connecting with raising about that. So yeah, in the other cohorts, I said more about social presence in theater. So I'm probably not going to say the same thing now, but I also had a whole reflection on masculine and feminine. Okay, because there is something about, so our social presence in theater comes from the work of Arawana Hayashi. She's a Japanese American choreographer and a meditation teacher and a dancer. And she has collaborated recent years with Otto Scharmer and the Pressing Institute and many other people to co-create this social presence in theater. But it actually comes from her original work with the art of making a true move, which is working with non-dancers, improvisations and dancer, and kind of this exploration of true move, which is anyway, it's really interesting to see when you meet her how she embodies this work, this kind of, it's both like moving constantly without kind of being very present and not knowing the whole time, and so social pressing theater again is let's say being right now used very much in this context of consultancy and some education work, and I have been researching and doing training with Arawana. And Arawana speaks about the three bodies, so the earth body, our body, and the social body. Arawana Hayashi, that's her name, and the social presence in theater. I'll write it. I'll also. It was there was a video for the 20-minute dance in the first model that I sent, and and social presenting, which is a made-up word, which means being present and sensing at the same time. So so she speaks about the three bodies, and this the basic practices, the 20-minute dance and the village and the duet that they are called. They're really about kind of sensing into these three bodies and noticing our awareness in the three bodies. And usually, so okay, I'll give this reflection on the masculine and feminine, and it's kind of rugged, but there is a practitioner of applied theater, Mark Weinblatt. He wrote a paper about playback theater and forum theater, and he does a very interesting metaphor there with the yin and yang from Eastern philosophy, saying that theater of the oppressed is more the yang and the playback theater being more the yin. So masculine and feminine in that sense. And he describes how him as a facilitator feels the difference when he's facilitating that or facilitating that, with the playback being more receptive and kind of listening, in the theater of the breast more kind of in expressive and active in interfering. But there is like a different quality of energy. And I feel that social presenting theater and theater of the oppressed or newspaper theater can have a similar relationship, in the sense that social presenting theater is really about kind of sensing and listening and feeling. While in theater of the present, more like expressing, changing, so it's like an active idea of changing. So the basic practices is this 20-minute dance, in which we just kind of start usually from lying on the floor, then moving to sitting and standing and walking, and just listening to what the body wants to do for 20 minutes or for more or less time. So that's the basic practice, just feeling the body in movement and stillness. And then usually there is a beginning of a sitting meditation for about 10 minutes, and then the 20-minute dance. And it's a practice in the sense that when we did the advance with Aramana, the invitation was to do it every day. I haven't really done it every day, but the invitation was to do it every day. And you can do it for 5 minutes or for 2 minutes, and we will do a short version of it later. So that's the sitting meditation and the 20-minute dance. And then the village, which is sort of the same, but then also moving in relation to other bodies. So the people in the room. So I put my attention on my body. I anchor my attention on the body and the moving body. And I also put attention to the earth body and the social body at the same time. So this is the village. And duet is when you do it in pairs. So it's just two people and the alternate movement and stillness together. So that's the basic practices. You had a question maybe or something to add, Marianne?
Oh, I was wondering, is there any sound, or is it just moving in silence?
It's a good question. Arowana herself, she's not very fan of people making too much sounds because she feels it's invasive to the other movers. At the same time, and this is true when you're doing like something like that, it's very, although it happens that things start to have sound, and I did exploration with the Roy Hart voice work, and so then the voice comes up, but it's a voice that comes from a true place. So I feel there is a true voice that can come in with a true move, So it's not and it's different when someone else is doing it. So that kind of happens spontaneously in situation when I was facilitating, that sound came. And also in occasions when we're doing the advance, and it's really powerful when sounds comes in in a kind of, but I think the invitation is to start with the, you know, not too much sound, and there's no music, if that's the question. Not usually, in the sense that again the music yeah, there are places where we're exploring, where we have a social arts practice group, and we don't call it anymore social present theater necessarily, and we bring other stuff. But let's say in the clean form, it's a silent practice, let's say, almost, unless something kind of emerges from the place. Yeah. But there is no such thing as silence also at the same time. Like one of the things that happens to me a lot in this, that I start to hear the birds and I start to hear noise, because it's always part of where we are, you know? Yeah. So, yeah. So I wanted to explore this actually, and to do a 5-5-5 viewpoints. It was one of the inspirations. She is aware of viewpoints. She worked with someone that worked with viewpoints. She you know, she grew up in her work, grew up from 60s, 70s, and a lot of improv, and she's not an intellectual of theater. So she was a practitioner. She has a practitioner mind and a Buddhist mind. So she's not interested in the sources of some of the stuff, but there is a lot of connection to viewpoints and choreographic kind of work. Yeah, and yes, because what I told her when we met in January is that I feel that she reinventing theater of the oppressed from the feminine principle.
Say that again. She did what with the?
I feel that she's reinventing theater of the oppressed from the feminine principle. And there is an interesting article of her about feminine principle in Theory U. I can share that after. And yeah. Yes. And how does that connect with newspaper theater? So what I want to introduce as an exercise is we're going to do 5-by-5-by-5-by-5. So we start with 5 minutes of sitting. And sometimes it's guided, sometimes it's not guided. I'm not a meditation teacher like Aravana and some other people. I might give some guidance as well if it's helpful. And then 5 minutes sitting and then 5 minutes moving. So it will be a 5 minutes, 20-minute dance. So 5 minutes of just moving in the space and seeing what the body wants to do. And we can start from sitting. Sometimes we start from lying down. And then we have 5 minutes of social body. So moving, you know, keeping with the moving and stillness, but also social body. And then we do 5 minutes of all of that and text. So that's the newspaper theater. So then we can bring in a text in that 5 minutes. That were like my daughter just gave me a text. So saying ritardo per la festa. Si vuol venire. Okay, I'm late to the party. So whatever text comes to you or you comes within you, and that 5 minutes you can read it or say it. And then the people that are not reading, they can move with that. So we are in the last 5 minutes, we're bringing the the words again. And I also feel that words are sort of like in that dance, words and body, they're also kind of masculine and feminine in the sense that words are invading somehow, they're creating some kind of vibration, and then the body or the social body can kind of transform that, right? So that's kind of part of what we're going to try. And is that okay? That sound okay?
I'm just, last time the texts were coming from a page where everybody shared, right? And this time the text is.
Yeah, it could also come from there, or it could just come for some, because we're moving in the space, maybe we can just bring what's around in our space. So then we don't need to kind of open the computer. So if you feel like you can open we have a Google Doc of text, yes.
And for the 5 minutes of social body, we should be looking at each other and interacting with each other, or no?
Yes, it's just so it's just noticing, you're not so it's just noticing the social body, and the social body can give us information as well. So let's say in the sitting, we're just noticing our attention in our body sitting, and then our attention in our body moving, and then our attention on our body moving, and there is a social body. But there is no like a specific thing that you have to do or not do. It's just you extend your attention to the social body as well. And the social body can be also the people in your space. It could be that the social body will be my daughter coming in, but there is also this social body. So there is this both. There is the social body and the social body. It's just noticing and moving and not moving. Do we need a break, or is it okay to? There's more questions. And
for me, it will be fine to go to the bathroom once.
Yeah. Okay, so we're doing 2 minutes break in presencing peeing break. I'm going to check what's about the target.
Start a dialogue with Yvonne.
I love her. She's my favorite people on Press for Change Room.
So she can't take credit for her fault.
Shall we find some text in English? Maybe preferable, right?
It's not
Or-
necessary. It could be any text, any language.
Okay.
It's just if you have something. Then
Yeah.
I'm going to move to the floor. Just for. I prefer to.
I found a book. Ah, great title.
I know.
Okay, so we find a position, place where we can sit this camera. And we can just find a position that we feel comfortable in.
Sorry, should this book be in English?
Sorry?
Not necessarily.
No.
Ah, okay.
No. So you just find a position. It could be on a chair or sitting, and we're just start by kind of doing 5 minutes of sitting. And you can just notice.
It's not so easy to hear you now.
Yes, let me try to do something about that.
You should sit.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
So you can find a position that you feel you can sit for 5 minutes and just noticing your weight on the floor.
You don't want us to sit in a chair. We should be on the floor.
No, whatever is comfortable. If you prefer being on a chair, that's
You want me
okay.
to?
Very.
Sorry?
Uh-huh. I'm sure
As you wish.
Well, was just asking, you want us to sit on the floor rather than a chair? Was that the?
And what you prefer.
Yeah.
Whatever you prefer is okay. Can you hear me? No. So you can find a sitting position that you're comfortable with. It could be on a chair, could be on the floor. And just noticing yourself sitting. You can feel your breath, the air coming in and out. Just noticing how it is to be here. It could be that a thought arrives and just notice it. Observe it. And let it continue. Like clouds. crossing the sky. Notice my heart beating. My own aliveness. Noticing if there is a place of tension in the body. If so, I can just breathe into it. And we enter the second 5 minutes. So we can start either sitting where we are or lying down, if it's possible to lie down. In the next 5 minutes, we just notice what the body wants to do. We just follow the movement of the body, alternating movement and stillness. allowing the body to do what it wishes to do. See if it wants to change position to sitting or standing. Just seeing what it wants to do, alternating periods of stillness and movement. Pay attention to the back of the body, back of the neck. Back of the head. Allowing the movement to arise. Have 5 more minutes. And without losing the attention to the body, my body, the earth body, where I am, I can also start to pay attention to the social body. Social body could be people around my physical surrounding, but it also could be the perception of people connected through the Zoom. Just add that to what I'm paying attention to. And we have a couple more minutes for this social body dance. See what else wants to happen. Just kind of noticing our awareness on the body, on the social body, being curious. Alternate movement and stillness. We are entering the final 5 minutes, and here, without changing much, we can start to bring on words, reading, or speaking from the mouth. We include that in our dance.
Special Demonstration Squad undercover Rob Harrison as DJ. We release our profile of Spy Cop Rob Harrison. He's one of the largest profiles compiled to date, partly because of the amount of contemporary information we have been fortunate to get access to, but also because he exemplifies a particular style of undercover policing in political groups. In 2014, after intermittent contact, he persuaded the woman to resume their relationship, telling her that he wanted to have children together. At that point, the woman, who is known only as Maya, who had been granted anonymity by the inquiry, broke up with her partner of 5 years. However, Harrison disappeared the day after they slept together. He has not contacted her since then, excluding one email sent 4 years ago. You fucking asshole. You came.
Fucking asshole.
You came to the groups. You always volunteered to take the notes, take the minutes. You were always there with the van to drive stuff. When we did that demonstration outside the Immigration Detention Center in Gatwick, you volunteered to do all the logistics. You kept track of everything. I didn't know, you know. Were you for real?
I didn't know, you know,
Fucking asshole.
kept track of everything.
That work was so hard. Immigration Detention Center work. Telling their stories, people telling me their stories, and I would share them back to the group, and you were writing them down. And you were promiscuous.
Stories. It was hard work. You were writing it down.
You were taking them stories and taking them back to your minder. And you were taking
them back.
Taking like you took lovers, like you took people who believed you were what you said you were. You took their trust. You used them.
Trust, you took it. You took their stories. That was hard.
Fucking asshole.
Took it.
Fucking hate
Took it.
so much.
Took the stories, wrote it down. It was hard work. You took lives, lovers. You took.
And now I see your story. You're in the papers again. Your photo. You're a DJ. You're a DJ.
I
at a
see.
benefit gig I helped
I
organize.
see.
You
I-
fucking asshole.
I still think he's made a terrible mistake.
You are in the papers again.
Can't believe it. Can't believe I believed in you.
Even if you do, you mustn't say it out loud. Come,
Our vision
promise
again,
me if you won't.
our vision again is to have the book act as a resource. It will serve the integral community by advancing perspectives, practices, and deeper insights into where things have been, where they are at currently, and where they are going.
Much of the broad patterns of behavior are now familiar. A man with a car who, despite a lack of real politics, uses his friendliness and helpfulness to place himself at the heart of the groups he was targeting. In this case, the undercover focused on anti-war and pro-Palestinian groups, starting with Globalized Resistance and the London branch of the International Solidarity Movement. From there, he moved into anarchist circles, State of Emergency, London No Borders.
The heart of the group. Heart.
Always thought it was weird that you were always helpful, but you didn't really have opinions of your own. But I never thought you weren't what you seemed to be.
Should have trusted my intuition.
I see you in the newspapers again.
And I recognize I should listen to my intuition.
Who are you really? Who were you?
In.
Who were you?
Ooh.
The name in the papers is not the name you go by. It's not the name your mother called you. Who are you?
I zoomed on my bike, climbed up the hill, and sped down the wind in my face. Exhilarating.
One of the basic principles of a team is tolerance and the acceptance of others. So we soon grew used to new members, and by the end of the year, we didn't notice who was new and who was an old member.
We didn't notice.
Harrison's conduct was described on Monday in an opening statement to the inquiry by Philippa Kaufman, QC, who represents 20 women deceived into sexual relationships by undercover officers between 1985 and 2015. These included long-term relationships that lasted years. She told the inquiry the state-sponsored deception had been devastating and life-altering for each of the women.
Sexual relations, deception. Devastating.
Kaufman said the undercover officers were permitted or encouraged to form sexual relationships with campaigners they were spying on as a deliberate tactic.
Spying on. Deliberate tactic.
The understanding of the nature of the deed and of his own agency in it that makes Othello take his own life would also demand that he cannot view what has happened without considering his own role.
Cannot be. Othello cannot be.
You knew.
You knew.
You knew what you were doing. It was a game, a playground for you. You could take what you wanted, take people's stories, take people's lives, take people's love.
Take part of the people.
They believed in you.
Stories.
What did you believe in? I don't know what you believed in.
Believed in you.
If you listen,
We managed. We held out against the power of a voter. We managed. crisis and trauma. It was genius community experience.
We manage. We manage.
We managed.
Zoomed on the bike, climbed up the hill and sped down fast, wind on the face. Exhilarating.
Ah.
I always felt our work was never enough. It was never enough. Couldn't stop the deportations, couldn't stop the I always felt I was never enough, but on the bicycle, I feel like I'm enough. I feel like I'm free. I feel like
Up the hill on the bike,
I'm moving
sped down, wind in my face.
down the hill towards the river. In that moment, the world is right.
Freedom.
Exhilarating.
Exhilarating. Wind on my face, zoom down, climb up the hill on the bike. Zoom, wind.
Exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
Movement that is enough in itself. That is enough in itself. An activist's work is never done. Policeman.
Fellow, enough in itself. Manipulation. Freedom to be.
So
Be free.
take a moment to find and not an ending, but a still
Be not
position
afraid.
within.
Be not afraid that I'm not enough.
Be not
That we are
afraid. You spied tactic, deception. Took the stories. Heart.
If you are witnessing, you can also journal or draw. If you're acting, you can slowly find this position, not an end, but like a pause. And we can all kind of take a moment to just feel the resonance. And if you feel like writing, journaling on your notes or in the chat, just what comes up. Or draw.
Hello, Betsy.
Hello, Betsy.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I messed up the time. I'm here.
Welcome.
So maybe we can share some of our notes. I can share, this is I started to write the draw. It has freedom stories We took them away. Enough itself. What true name I have. How can we give them back? We have on the chat, own body, social body, centuring, moving, inspiration, earth body, yes. Bring present in the moment, full body listening, surrendering, welcome. Reading an article about an official inquiry into undercovering pleasing, a photo, a man in a group I work with. Reading it, I kept an emotional distance, numbed safety, didn't want to acknowledge the hurt and anger it evoked, policing, not pleasing. Greg's text, provocative, infuriating. So if there is something more you want to share from your notes or something that came to you.
I just want to say that, because it's easier to say than to type, the social presence thing really recalibrated my relationship with text that I did bring, because it was a text that I felt was really important because it touched on my life and the life of lots of other people I knew and people I don't know. Lots of people I don't know it touched on, yeah. But I think it was kind of my first reading of it was kind of alienated from myself, because actually myself was too painful to go there. And sitting on the earth, because I knew the text, I was trying to ground into the earth, but also ruminating, in fact, kind of freewheeling thinking about the text, and realizing that I was actually quite angry still, or angry in a way that I hadn't allowed myself to feel, and grieving in a way that I hadn't allowed myself to feel. And the dance, the movement really helped to kind of bring those things into some kind of alignment. So it kind of opened it up for me. And thank you. And also I want to say thank you to Awele for the bicycle, because that was a really important kind of, not a resolution, not a closure, but kind of took it to somewhere that actually I could feel good as well. So that was really an important juxtaposition with the oppressiveness of the first text. Thank you for that.
Mhm. Thank you for your text. Wow. Oh, it's so present right now.
Is this text in the document, Greg? Did you share it there or?
Yeah, it's in the document, and actually it's two texts. One was a newspaper article and one's from an activist website. Okay. And literally, I didn't read the whole thing. I just read a paragraph from one, then jumped to another. But yeah, and it came up after our last. It came in the newspapers and the Guardian, which is a big liberal paper here, the UK. There's a picture of the guy, and I was like, fucking hell, it's him.
I was really struck in the shift as well when you were reading, and then you shifted into "you asshole," and it was really interesting, the change in energy in that change. Like for me, of like, it was such heavy, distressing, alienating from yourself sort of story. And then when you said you asshole, it like, it just felt so, I was really interested in how powerful that felt to be able to kind of reclaim this. Something changed in my physicality, like my feeling, and in what I was hearing, and it's like it lifted up. There was a different trajectory with what was, I don't know if that was you ad-libbing or whether you were reading something at that point or you were just expressing yourself.
Maybe they should, and maybe that was the thing, you know, it's like my voice that isn't in the official narrative, my reaction.
But I thought that was really interesting to have that, and then going back into the text, and then the bicycle as well was like there was all these like cracks of light coming through into it, of like opening up, breaking something, and there was like this other thing happening, which it was just, yeah, that was really, yeah, a beautiful shifting tones as well. Yeah.
I also like the dynamic of ending the bicycle one. It had a different energy, something we needed somehow, like to climb out of it. And I really like the way you were performing the text, Greg. I must say I didn't really listen to the text that much. So I like people saying, "Ah, that's a nice text," or it's provoking or anything. I didn't hear anything, but I found it interesting. Some words, yes, and then the "fuck you" with Marianne coming like, yeah, like this. You know, I really enjoyed that part. Like, okay, yeah, we can do this. You know, like we need this. It felt liberating. But thank you.
I wrote down, you fucking asshole, infiltrators, agent provocateurs, fucking assholes, goddamn psychopaths. We have to build more empathetic world. We need a culture that abides by 4 agreements. So the text really activated me personally. I don't know this story, but I know stories like this. So I just really felt, yeah, so much rage in my body, but at the same time, being in this other space of like just being with the words. So it was kind of, it reminded me a little bit of this new practice I did yesterday about embodied anti-racism, which was a new thing that I've never heard of before. But it just felt like that this, you know, with the bicycle and the words and other people's movements and even, you know, seeing my own hands, like there was this way of like having the rage but also being not in the rage at the same time. Kind of interesting. It's definitely made me feel like this is, that there's a practice in this that's different. And I think leading up to it, doing the meditation and the movement and the idea of like whatever social body that, like, what does that mean when you're alone in a space by yourself, like, but having that awareness, and it felt like all those 3 things came together.
I wanted to hear more about Othello, and I definitely want to hear more about embodied anti-racism.
Me too, about the embodied anti-racism. The Othello came, I had this book, which I've not read, Amartya Sen, The Idea, is that a mirror image to you? The Idea of Justice. And I just opened it randomly, to be honest. And then I saw this bit about Othello. I don't know what the context is, so I can't really, I'll have to read it. Next week I'll tell you. I'll read the chapter. But he's saying when, for example, Othello explains to Lodovico that he's killed Desdemona by saying that's he that was Othello, here I am. It would indeed be ridiculous to insist that Othello must see what's happened in exactly the same way as Lodovico would. And then it says, this is the bit I read. Sorry, this might not be very interesting. The understanding of the nature of the deed and of his own agency in it that makes Othello take his own life would also demand that he cannot view what has happened without considering his own role in the murder, which would make his perspective altogether different from that of others. Othello's positionality is central to the evaluation, not a detail that can be lost in his own evaluation of the event. I just was like struck when I started reading it about it's putting that next to Greg's text and that idea of guilt and his personal agency in a murder or a taking of the body of a woman, of the betrayal of that act of domination, really. But here him recognizing his role, and it kind of opened up something for me about, well, what is that for this Matt? This Matt horror he also becomes a character, this police undercover asshole. So yeah, and the notes that I wrote just now when you said, right, here's my this is what I wrote. Took the stories, our stories, whose stories, who owns the story? All, we are all connected, one fabric, you, he is part of me, his story interweaves with mine. You asshole. Understanding of the deed, his agency, his role in the murder. What murder? Of stories stolen, takes his own life.
So listening to that, the text that I just opened up my new book to that I was going to be reading this month, but I didn't share. It opened to the 14th Amendment's first clause, please the radical Republicans. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Where was the bicycle text from?
It's a 10-year-old me story that I've not thought about or shared in a long time, but something, I'm on a chair on wheels for the first time in a long time. And this movement came, and the word Zoom, and then I thought of me on my bicycle, and the rule was right on the sidewalk in front of the house, do not go around the corner up the hill or in the alley. And of course, when nobody was looking, I went up the hill. And so I was pedaling with arms and legs in this chair. And then I would zoom, and the wind on my face. Exhilarating. So that just came to me. I think, well, one thing I had said, I was going to try to find a place where I could rent a bike this weekend. In my subconscious mind, I've not done that yet. But freedom, just freedom. And I think Yuri's notion of movement, like just listening to the body, just being 9 months in shelter in place, and I was walking probably up until September, trails and neighborhood walking, and then I've just been glued to a desk working on Zoom and not taking care of my body. Well, it's been a little challenge since the hand surgery in the fall, and so that notion of just being present in the body and maybe what it's longing for.
They're like how simple some.
Sorry, I lost my connection for a second. Yeah, I wanted to say that. So with the other groups, we did the breakouts as well after we did the improvisation. It's really interesting that the improvisation, it's really hard to keep it at 5 minutes. It's almost impossible. And actually as improvisation goes on, it seems like it's harder to stop it in a way. Or it's almost, and again, I have this experience of improvising 1 hour and you can just continue basically. and there is still more in it somehow. Something else that came up now with this, I was just listening to a friend that we're in this social field research group, and he has this story. Like 30 or 40 years ago, he went to India and he was in this gathering of Brahmins, and they performed some kind of ritual on him in which they read Sanskrit on him for 5 days. So just 50 Brahmins reading Sanskrit on you for 5 days or something like that. And he did, so in that interview, he's being talked about source. So source conditions, this comes from kind of theory U, is this the pure awareness somehow? So what is source? And he was sharing that story because that's where he experienced. He said like, I felt at some point he felt Sanskrit was attacking him. It felt like Sanskrit was attacking him. And he had to and he felt the resistance. There was a resistance and different resistance barriers within him. They were trying to preserve him somehow because the Sanskrit was attacking him or his perception of self somehow. And he said that at some point it was just letting go of that. There was a certain moment so, I think it's interesting to think about source or awareness as something in which we don't exist anymore. So we as individuals don't exist anymore. And it's interesting, the Sanskrit is a language, right? It's an ancient language. And how language can be something that invades, and or changes. It's like so much, and we don't see it that way in everyday life, that the words that we read or say or write, that they are changing the awareness, right? What came to me from all of that, and I didn't really understand the story I was moving, but for me came another story. So my image of the story that came was about Aboriginal people in Australia, and about they took the stories, the anthropologists, whatever, we took the stories, and that was the whole thing. I was living in the stories that we have been taking stories and writing them down without without full awareness of what we're doing when we're doing that, or maybe and the question that came is how can we give them back? How can we give the story back? And then that came, what is my true name? I feel also this experience, what is my true name? I don't know what's my true name. And yeah, I'm sharing all of that. I feel that maybe we cannot really create other scenes in breakouts, but I do think we can do breakouts, even if for 10 minutes. And maybe take something from what we did as an improvisation, as a reflection, and just reflect on that. And you can reflect on that through speaking or moving and speaking. So because I still want to do breakouts, to experience breakouts in this group as well. And then we will be back, and I'll share more about the digital essay. And is that okay if we do that? Okay. So let me see. I'll do. Bye, Nata. Okay, I'll do free groups. So it's two or three people in a group, and you can choose in your group if you want to just stay in the conversation or if you want to try something out from this kind of improvisation. Yes, Greg.
Awele's put in the chats and ask, can I share a 3-minute digital essay? Maybe.
Sure.
Should we do
Or I
that?
think it might be what you're describing. I don't know.
Can we do it after the breakout, Awele?
Yeah.
We can do it as an ending. Yeah. Cool.
Well, I wanted to get, so I'm not sure if this is what you are calling digital essay, but I've been working on storytelling with the students. And in the midst of that, the elections happened, and we did a week unit on PSAs.
Yeah.
And looking at the 4 different techniques. And so the one that I have, this young man who was quiet, who never said a word in class, begins to apply the different techniques in this particular sharing. And so I wanted to see if this is what you're thinking.
Probably yes. Probably more articulated than what I'm thinking.
And then I wanted to know from you how I could help others possibly play and get somewhere close.
Yes. Let's if you have that, and then we can see that in the closing. Yeah.
Okay.
But just to keep on with the conversation and what kind of and also have this breakout moment. So we have 10 minutes of breakout, and then we see the digital essay. And okay, I'm opening the rooms now. It's like,
yeah. Bye. It's really easy, and you cannot do this in your life, you know. You always try to be at least a bit polite.
I was in an interesting lab on Friday, and it's really people need people, very cool format and work. But they used the breakout in a very strange way, that we were in breakout and they moved us in the middle 2 times. So there was this moment in which you kind of you were talking with someone and then he disappeared into the ether, and then you were saying something and you were disappeared into the ether, and then you know appeared in another group. So it was a really weird situation, like
Teleport.
Star Trek stuff, like people.
Matter of time.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to see the essay, Awele, and I'll just say first that I'm trying to be very open with what the essay could be. So in the sense that it could be taking one or more of the techniques and implementing it on a text. This is a very simple, and then presenting it as some kind of recording or something, but it could be something completely different. But with the students that I work with, and I cannot share their essays because I don't know how to manage the bureaucracy and the privacy around that. But we started with just voice, and now they're doing visual and sound. And I like what came up in our group, that the newspaper theater is about being critical when we read the news. So in a way, the essay in itself is not just that it's nice, but it's part of the process of understanding what's behind it somehow. And I'm also curious with this kind of the activation, the thing that also happened with Greg, like how a news article, in this case, connected with a story that you know, but for some people it could be a story that you don't even know, but it activates something in you. So I know, for example, Hector, that will be our guest, he already said in 10th of January, you know, he's playing Nightwind, which is on his personal story. A lot of this work got activated after the incident in Iraq with the soldiers that they tortured, the photo. Yeah, Abu Ghraib, yeah. So you know, it's kind of activated in him a series of stuff that jump-started a lot of things, including the play. And my sister now is also, she got jump-started from something, and she's working on her own stuff. So I can see that people get that. So I think that's also very interesting. And then what's the material that is coming out from my reaction? You know, being curious of the material, which could be, you know, even personal material, or that comes out from that friction of meeting the story, let's say. Yes. I will, I can make you like a...
Getting ready. We've been doing storytelling, and this prompt is Teen Lives Matter. So a story where that demonstrates you matter, or you've made a difference, right? And so this is a young man who is really, really quiet in class, not much talking, very much talking head whenever he shared a story. So I've been really working on trying to embody the story. The goals that they have are, can you hook an audience, you know, in the first 8 seconds? Can you use physical storytelling, movement and gesture without dialogue to convey the story? Can you take us on an emotional journey? Can you bring voices or perspective into the story, etc. And so this is, and then by the end of our course, in our 8 weeks, we'll be able to look for evidence of growth as a storyteller. Okay, so this was such a big surprise from where he started.
The story is about how you can become a better leader in your school community. The story takes place in my 6th grade science class, and we were learning about the water cycle and its processes such as evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. She would drink a sparkling water called LaCroix, and if the class went too silent, then she would open up her can of LaCroix, crack it open, and drink it silently. Can anyone tell me what is condensation? Anyone? Anyone? Oh man, it's so silent. Should I go? I mean, what if I get the answer wrong? You know what? I'm just gonna do it. Is it the process where water vapor becomes cold enough that it cools down into liquid water? Exactly. Why didn't you say that earlier? Wow. For the first time, I got an answer correct. I learned at the end of the day that participating more in class helped me lead more class discussions and be a better member of my school community.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So from just, a talking head to really taking on roles and voices and playing with sound and sound design. And I had asked them also if they could tap into sensory, our senses. And so it was a big leap, right? And there's more that can be developed, but it was such a big celebration. Is that what you mean by a digital essay?
Yes, this could be one way to do it. That's actually very elaborate, in the sense that this is requires several takes and voiceover and creativity, and yes, and anything basically that you can share digitally is a digital essay, and is audio visual. I shared in the chat, so I created this model. I don't know if we can share those videos with other people, so I probably will not add it, but if you see on the website, I'll just share my screen for a second. So we had some kind of hacking situation. I think some of you got an email from a mysterious Marie Karim, not a real person. And so we closed down the courses section inside the website, but I'm creating the models as pages and then sharing it with you on here and on the sutra. So this is like the model, which is connected with essay. So we had First Fire, which was really about intention, and you can still do that and go back to the intention. And this is the one about the essay and about it's an invitation to do it in between. So again, I don't want to be the one like bring it to next session. Yeah, it could be something you develop for the rest of the course or even afterwards. If you can bring stuff in, then we can work on that together and we can reflect on them. I did put some kind of key questions that you could use if you feel like inspired to. How are the news stories and images we read, see affect our everyday lives? This could be a theme. Or how do images and stories shape the cultures we live in? This could be a theme. What is newspaper theater in the 21st century? So this could be a theme. And I invite you to connect with other people if you want to work together. So you can work on it on your own, or you can work on it with someone else. So again, through the sutra and the coffee breaks that Tamsin is offering, and also there is this cool Gather Town space. So this could be all places to connect and say like, hey, let's do this together, which is a possibility. I did put some texts, and again, you're not obliged to use them. It's things that I'm inspired by right now, the Song Spirals book I'm reading of Aboriginal women in Australia, and something from Theatre for Living by David Diamond. Actually, it's from Friedrich Capra, Introduction to David Diamond, and some examples. So in the link on the examples, you see this weird experiment I did with just recording my screen with different videos. And it's on Instagram. You can see that as an example. This is the link to the voice. in which you see you can also watch it with friends. If you want to watch it together, it creates a kind of a video group.
Hello, my name is Uri and I'm inviting you to this voice experience.
Okay, so you can do that together, and in here you can see the improvisation that were created in the jam sessions. And this is something else that a friend sent to me that I thought they might not know about newspaper theater, but it was an interesting example of creating a video to treat a theme through stories and images. So this is about. I thought it's interesting.
I think you showed it before. I think no.
Did I?
I don't know.
This is the one of the forest.
Yeah.
Did I show?
Can we see just a few seconds to see?
All the time in a kingdom not far away, there were some beautiful forests.
Yeah.
No.
These forests and their beings were so wonderful that people from all over came to witness them.
It's very short.
The forests were the source of breath and water for the people of the kingdom, and it was the peaceful habitat of many magnificent creatures. But then, the governor of the kingdom, a man who once declared himself a nature-loving human, overwhelmed by power and inflamed, decided to cut down these forests. I will build a giant road through these forests, and nobody will stop me. Some of the people of the kingdom objected to this decision, but the power was not on their side. After losing trust in the methods and intentions of the establishment, they decided to reclaim the power they had handed to the governor. In a poetic, yet strategic act, they started to build their houses and settled amongst the wonderful living beings of the forest, in hope to suspend the cuttings and make the people of the kingdom understand what has been done in their behalf. The sad part of this story, as of usual stories involving wealth and great power, is that they are bound to lose, unless the people of the kingdom will come to realize what they have realized, that they are the power if they are united. Will the people of the kingdom rise up? Will they? Will you?
Yeah, so this was sent to me by Dominic Werner. He's a practitioner. He probably knows the group. This is so I put as an example, you know. Again, I'm not sure if they even know about newspaper theater, but it's kind of how do we use story to tell our story, our struggle story, in a way that opens maybe a question. I did put some question in the back of it, is what do you notice? Do you think it's effective or not effective in the social political aims? What can be learned from those? And the university where I'm teaching is German university, and we shared, and it was interesting. When we were seeing this video, he said he was there was a moment, there was a drawing, and he said that's one of the students said it's not effective because they seem to be hippie, and so you know, so there was a conversation also on what's effective and what's not effective. And the same student, he's working on an essay about climate change, and we were also speaking about the difficulty to identify with this issue because it's not a human protagonist like some of the other stuff that we've been exploring. So yeah, so I don't understand the question, Oela. Do you have a link to your digital essay?
Yeah.
What does it mean? To which essay?
The imagination action, the link before and above.
Yes, this is the link. and I'll send it in the follow-up email. This is like the model, and then it has the whole these links are there.
Got it. Moving images.
Yes, this is like
Okay.
this is the model in between session 2 and the next one, which is session 3. And again, if you feel able to bring to next session something, then that's great. Otherwise, it will wait for the next. And
The next session, do we know by head? I'm not sure.
yes, let me check. It's 6.
Ah, okay, December. Yeah.
Oh, December 6th?
Yes, it's
Okay.
this time it's next week.
Next week. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Perfecto.
Yes, and again, just we're over the time. Sorry about that. Let's make a little checkout. So I'm maybe just something that we want to share from our session today. In one word, unexpectedly. Sending it to Greg.
You're mute.
Tearing open the lines. Tearing open the lines. More than one word. Sending it to Tamsin.
Big cauldron of many parts, making meaning, power, collectivity. Yay! Also, sorry to just talk, but I've just shared a link in case people haven't seen it. I made this thing just to find out when people are available to help with the coffee breaks. But so far, Saturday evening or Sunday evenings have been when it's worked, or in UK time. But I'll put it on Sutra. So if you're interested, keep an eye on the Sutra bulletin space. That's
one word.
My mixed.
In German,
and going back to the what? Huh?
I say in German you can connect infinity of words, so you can create a lot without spaces. It's like
oh, that's good. Going back to, and I'm gonna pass it to. How do I say your name? Jolianne or Jolien? Jolien.
Jolene, like the song.
Jolene. Jolene.
One word. A wave. And I'm sending it to Alexia.
Enlightened. And I'm sending it to Nada.
Disfocused. And I send this to Mary. Mary, was you? Yeah. Who wasn't? Betsy?
No, you can send it to Mary. Mary hasn't gone yet.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Think. Chronicity. And I pass it to Betsy.
Critically emotional. Awele.
Greg.
Had we all had? Yeah.
Greg, you can decide what to do with it now. You can decide what to do with it. Or you can, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a lovely day, night, evening, morning, afternoon.
See you all next week.
Yes, see you.
Next week. Remember December 1st, there is lots of really interesting stuff. See you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, see you sooner.
Yes.
Yeah. More in the evening. Well, for me, evening. I will be
Yes.
there. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.